Hello everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to today's tutorial. In this video, I'll show you how to track objects in your footage using After Effects. Let's get started. Alright, let's jump in. First thing I'm going to do is drop my footage onto the timeline, along with whatever assets I want to add, whether that's text, logos, or VFX. Now before we start the tracking process, we need to make sure things stay organized. So I'm going to create a null object. This will be the container for all the tracking data, keeping everything nice and neat. Next up, I always make sure to properly label each of my layers, just a little step to keep things tidy. Now with my footage selected, let's head over to the tracker panel. If you can't find it, just go up to the window menu and it should be in the list. In the tracker panel, we're going to click Track Motion. You'll see two squares, an inner square and an outer square. The inner square is where we want our tracking point to stay, and the outer square is the area After Effects will search for data. If your footage has fast movement, make the outer square bigger. This gives After Effects more room to search, but keep in mind that bigger squares mean slower tracking. Now here's where things get interesting. You've got three tracking options: position, rotation, and scale. For most cases, tracking position is enough, but if you want to track rotation and scale as well, you can select those too. When you do, After Effects will add extra tracking points to account for the changes in rotation and scale. Quick tip: when adding tracking points, don't just place them randomly. For example, if you're tracking scale, make sure your points are in logical spots. Don't put one in the front and one in the background, because the distance between them will mess up the tracking. Once I've got my tracking points in place, I'll hit Analyze Forward to start the tracking. But here's the thing, don't just sit back and relax, you need to keep an eye on the process. After Effects doesn't always get it right, so you might need to stop the tracking, adjust the points, and continue. If your tracking keeps messing up, here's a pro tip. Try analyzing one frame at a time. It's a bit slower, but it's much more accurate. Another trick to improve your tracking is to boost the contrast of your shot. Before I track, I like to use an effect like curves or Lumetri color to increase the contrast. But here's the key. To make this work, I need to pre-compose the footage. So I right-click on the layer and select Pre-compose, which essentially bundles the footage and the contrast effect into one. Now I can track this new pre-composed layer, and trust me, this method works 99% of the time. Once I've got a solid track, I'm going to apply it to the null object I created earlier. I'll head to the Motion Target section, click Edit Target, and choose my null object. Hit OK, then click Apply. In the pop-up window, apply the tracking to both the X and Y dimensions, and just like that, the tracking data is applied to the null object. Now let's start linking things up. For example, I want my text to follow the motion. To do that, I grab the Pick Whip tool in the Parent and Link section of the timeline, drag it to the null object, and just like that, my text follows the tracking. And that's it. You can repeat this for any other assets you want to track in your footage. But if you're ready to take things a step further and start tracking in 3D space, make sure to check out the video on my left. Definitely worth checking out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.